Let's see. We'll just. Is it alright if I prop it against the photo?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see if we can do this. We'll go in between.
Well, maybe how about I sit over here? I mean, is that? I mean.
Yeah, anything is fine.
And what? Maybe this is just for the audio then.
They can be audio or video.
I mean, it'd be more difficult to have the video, but whatever you want to. If the audio is what you need, then.
He didn't say it was. We can just go audio. Actually, that'd be okay.
Okay.
I'll just sit up just like this then.
Okay.
Okay. So first, we can. So. Your coaching philosophy, right? It's kind of broken down into like 3 different categories. Well, like as I was told. So obviously winning is always, a factor in your coaching. The development of your athletes and just like having fun.
Okay.
If any of those hit home with you, you can expand upon it. If you have something else that you have in mind, like a different factor, you can bring that up too. But tell me about your philosophy.
Well, my philosophy when I was younger, I think, was more about winning. And I had 7 years in junior high when that was my first coaching in track. Well, we didn't lose in 7 years. So I got sort of used to winning, but it was a group of people who actually became the fathers of a lot of the kids I coached later. I was just blessed to be in an environment that supported athletics and had a whole lot of fun. I mean, we joked about not being able to hear when we got home off of a junior high bus because they screamed the entire time and that kind of thing. So it started out to be a whole lot of fun, and I got used to winning. I mean, that was just the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got older in coaching and was fortunate enough to have good athletes, and one of my philosophies as I got older, I'd go to coaches' clinics, and all the championship coaches would be sitting there on a panel, and I would get my notes ready, and I'm going to find out what it takes to be a state champion.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all different coaching philosophies in practices. Some lifted, some never lifted,
Mm-hmm.
some were never on a track, some were always on a track. So I decided what was the common factor. The common factor is you have to have the athlete.
Yeah.
You have to get an outlier to be able to become a state champion or a team with enough good guys to be a state championship team.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, luck would have it that I was always blessed with kids that walk through, not every year, but if the talented kid doesn't walk through your door and say, "Coach, I want to run," you're going to have a lot of fun and you're going to be a great coach and people will like you, but you won't win.
Mm-hmm.
So I was blessed on both ends. We were winning, and also I had the Jason Muellers and the Fortmans and the Barnes and the Lovelaces. You just drove past Wechter's house up here, and also Doug Barnes' house and Jason Rish's house, and these are all.
I was just thinking about on the way up here. You've had how many high school All-Americans have you had? Like 5 now?
Well, we've had 3.
Wechter twins, Mueller, Lovelace, Stein was
and then we've had Division I All-Americans was Jimmy Lovelace at Kent State, and then Andrew Wechter was at Michigan.
Yeah. His
brother Austin at
was it Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
He was never a national champion. Well, Andrew got it through a 4x4. That's the way he became an All-American. I'll never forget. I came home from a graduation party and was watching the Nationals on TV, and it was in New Orleans, I believe, and Michigan. He was the second leg, and they got to the final, so he's going to be an All-American,
right? Because
they're going to be in the top 8, and because their first leg was very strong, I actually saw him most of the time on the second leg. I was on my hands and knees screaming at the television, and it was such a surreal experience. But no, it was a case of just being very fortunate to have the talent that year after. Now, people would say when Jason Mueller was a sophomore state champion in the 1600, everybody says, isn't going to be great to coach him. Yes, but what is the expectation in the next
Right.
2 years? He can only be a state champion, or you're going to
go down. Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, we were all over the country with him. We were in North Carolina, we were in Denton, Texas for junior nationals, and that was a lot of fun, but it also was a lot of pressure. I must say I've had as much fun with some kid as a senior, breaking 17 for the first time in cross country as I had with some of the big stuff, because there was a lot of pressure with that.
Really?
So as I got older in coaching, I was fortunate enough to have the success, and so something became, as I was thinking about what you might be asking me, something became more important to me, and that's the way the kids acted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my first speech to all of them was, once you put on that Shelby shirt, you are no longer an individual. You are part of a group. Nobody knows your name unless you're a Doug Barnes or Jimmy Lovelace or Brady Diener. No, seriously, no. We knew who you were, and that's what I always size people up. And we watch, as an example, there's a kid from Ontario.
Brett Corletti?
Well, he's the more recent one.
Yeah.
Corletti was, he's
a goofy guy.
He's a goofy guy. But there was another one that ran, and now I can't even think what his name was, because I was at his wedding. He was a little redhead kid that backed off of nobody, and that was the Jason Mueller era.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a spitfire, and we didn't know what to think about him until he got older and more mature. He never changed the fire he had, but I loved the kid to death, just because of his desire to be good, but then he was respectful and he was a nice guy.
Right.
And that's the reason I love you guys. I like the old NOL because for the most part, in cross country and track, you get to know the kids. Our kids get to know those kids.
Definitely.
I mean, back in the 90s, our kid, Upper Sandusky, for some reason, was a group that we went to their proms. They came to our proms. Jason Mueller and Brett Dunbar and those guys. I mean, and they broke our 4x8 record, which broke my heart, that kind of thing. But tremendous competitors, but they became friends, and they went off to school, and we kept track of where everybody was. So anyway, my philosophy on what you needed to do for me was I had two rules: get good grades and keep me out of the assistant principal's office. And I always said that with a laugh, but they knew what I was talking about. And what would bother me more than anything else was when I would be in a discipline meeting with the assistant principal and a bus driver and whoever was involved, and I cared more about it than the kid did.
Oh, yeah.
And I just couldn't. I was thinking of all the letters that need to be written and all the apologies, and the kid was saying, well, everybody does it. I mean, I didn't do anything, blah, blah, and that just ripped me up. And I'll tell you, as a future coach, and you'll be a tremendous coach, always deal with your problems immediately. Immediately. Now that's a good thing for you in business or teaching or whatever you go into. When you get that phone call and you need to call somebody, write it down, and as soon as you possibly can, deal with it. Don't put it off. Now, I must admit there were times as a younger coach when I heard rumors, and you hear rumors. A coach is the last person to hear.
Yep.
To really get the fact. Until it happens, the kid walks up to your door on Sunday morning and his parents are sitting in the driveway of the car.
Our coach says the same thing.
And says, Coach, I screwed up last night. And so what I say is you got to be ahead of it. When you hear it, you have to find out as much as you possibly can. If there's hard evidence, you have to deal with it now. And my problem, I think, as I got older, is my conscience. To be perfectly honest.
And
I mean, there was a time, as an example, if I was running and I would find a $10 bill, that's my $10 bill. Somebody lost it. I was running, years ago, and down by the Presbyterian church, and there's a $10 bill on the sidewalk, and I'm looking at this thing and saying, yeah. And I thought, somebody lost that thing, and I stuck it under the door of the church. I mean, I'm not bragging about it. It's just, it's just what I evolved into.
Yeah, of course.
And there's too many times that I would wake up at night and think about that situation, what I need to do. And I didn't want to miss sleep because I screwed up. And the worst possible thing is you ignored it and it became something and you could have done something about it. And what you need to do too is develop an understanding, and I'm sure you were this for Coach Frada. You have to be the eyes and ears, not the tattler, but you have to have a conscience for some of your teammates. Because you're the man of reason. Now, Chris has a couple of them now that are 30-year-old, 16-year-olds.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They know what is supposed to happen, and you don't have to tell me, but you have to talk to them. That's not a good idea. Think about what would happen if we get caught, that kind of thing. I always have, and this wasn't mine originally, but I always have a story that an adolescent boy, if he's sitting in this room, has one brain. You bring 5 more in of his friends, they only have one brain.
Yep.
They do. Because vandalism, as an example, I did a big paper in a psychology course, I guess, maybe in graduate school, on vandalism. And it was just something that was a topic, and I took it.
Right.
And found out that 21 and below acts of vandalism are almost never done alone. Never. I mean, some kid just doesn't get a bright idea not being mad at a teacher and throwing a rock through their window. I'm talking about painting or something, sort of a project kind of thing, because you need to be talked into it, and you need to have confidence of somebody else. And so those 5 guys are sharing that one brain, and they're going to do something stupid, or somebody's going to talk them out of it. So I don't want to call them spies, but I always had kids that I always talked to them about doing the right thing and encouraging your friends not to do stupid things,
Yep.
And so that, as far as my coaching philosophy, was what I was most happy about. And I'd always tell my kids that the big thing is when you knock on my door and you're 30 years old and you've got a wife there and kids or not, and you come in and you tell me about your life. That's the successful part. You're not going to be a professional athlete. You're not going to come to my door and say, I run for the Olympics or something.
Unless we Drew Wendell, but
yeah,
he's pretty fortunate right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
but that's the important thing. And if I could play a minor role in helping you get along down the road, just by example or giving you the right to have a conscience. That's the thing. That isn't a popular thing to be, especially with your peers.
Right.
Is to be a voice of reason, because it's not. The term I hate the most is it was hilarious. A kid, something done stupid.
And you hear that a lot.
You hear that a lot. You almost killed yourself and your friends in your car, and it was hilarious. No, it wasn't. I've gone to too many funerals that involve cars of kids in my classes, that it isn't. But that's just part of the thing. Another part of my philosophy, and I know there's a culture of coaches doing this, but I would never swear. I would never use any profanity in front of my kids.
That's how Friday is.
I just absolutely wouldn't do it. And I would have a talk with the kids about what I expected of them. Now, I said there's a difference between the socialist, in politics, but your social contact with your friends in the locker room, and what you have to hear yourself say. You know what I'm saying? You have to hear yourself say the F word sometime. It's just part of growing up, but not when you have that uniform on. Not when you represent me and your grandma and that bus driver and you go out there